How's it going, Jack Tackers, and welcome back to another video for you guys. Today, I'm going to be ranking all 46 seasons of Survivor from the worst to the best. I don't get a chance to talk about reality TV that much on the channel, but I wanted to because I have now finally seen all 46 seasons, and of course, 46 literally just ended. So now is a good time to do this ranking, and I'm going to try and go through it relatively quick because I don't want this video to end up being, 2 hours long. So with that being said, let's jump on into this. Starting off at number 46, I have Survivor 41. Oh boy. Absolutely terrible this season. And the new era has kind of been talked about at great length at this point. And I agree with all of the complaints that people have with it. And of course, Survivor 41 was the first New Era season. And so it just kind of hurts a little more. But like literally this cast, other than like Xander and maybe Shan, don't really care about the rest. It's pretty trash, this cast. And Erica, the winner, she gets a horrible edit. She's very underutilized in the season and under-edited overall. So that's just another big problem with this season. It sucks. That's why it's at the very bottom. Anyway, moving on to number 45, I have Survivor 42, the season immediately after 41. The only reason this is better than 41 ever so slightly is because I think Marianne, who wins the season, does get a better winner's edit. And I think just the cast in general is a bit better as well. Of course, I liked Mike and Jonathan and Omer. So, there's some good characters this season. But it's still not a good season at all. The editing is still not quite there. A lot of the mechanics, the game mechanics of the new era weren't quite figured out yet. They're still kind of finding their footing in the new era. They hadn't quite found it yet. And that's why it's at the bottom here. Anyways, moving on to number 44, I have not a new era season. Don't worry, they're not all going to be at the very bottom. But I have Survivor Game Changers, season 34. And this season had a somewhat promising cast because you had the likes of Cirie and Sandra and Malcolm and Tony. The problem is a lot of these people end up leaving very early on. And also you have the Varner and Zeke situation, which is the most uncomfortable moment in the entire show. And just the fact that like takes up the entire tribal council is just, yikes, man. It's hard to sit through. And I also don't really like Sarah as a winner. There, I said it. Hot take. I don't really care, man. Sarah is boring, and watching her on Survivor is like watching paint dry. Moving on to number 43, I have Survivor Thailand, Season 5, which a lot of people put this season low. It's got an unlikable cast for the most part. You have the Ted and Gandia situation. I do think Brian is a bit of an interesting winner, actually. Say what you will about him as a person, but I think he played a very dominant game, and I think that is somewhat of a positive of the season. And also you have the attack zone challenge. You weren't in the attack zone. Funny stuff, man. But overall, it's just like, it's a yucky season. A lot of these people aren't very interesting to watch. That's why it's here at the bottom. Anyways, moving on to number 42, I have, oh boy, a big hot take right here. Survivor Vanuatu, Season 9. But Jack, this is an underrated season. This is secretly an underrated gem. It takes a while to get going, but eventually, nothing happens. I will say the only redeeming quality of this season is Chris winning and kind of having the underdog role of the season, going against all these women and, ultimately winning. And the reason why this season's at the very bottom, let me explain. First of all, I don't like the men versus women tribe divide. They did that in the Amazon, which was just 3 seasons prior, and I hated it here as well. It just creates an uninteresting atmosphere when the men and women are separated. And I think the cast is just weak in general. Again, I like Chris. I like Twyla. Eliza is kind of like a quote-unquote legend, I guess, ish. But I don't really care for Eliza that much. The final tribal council is good, I will say. It's kind of emotional. Chris gives a good performance at Final Tribal, but I still don't like a lot of the moments in this season. especially Amy. She's actually the worst part of this season for me. She's much more tolerable in Micronesia, but she's so hypocritical this season. Talks about being a team player, and yet she doesn't want to show the guys how to crack open a coconut. Unbelievable stuff. Anyways, I don't really care for this season. It's not like unwatchable, but it's pretty bad, again, which is why it's towards the bottom. Moving on to number 41, I have Survivor One World, season 24, which a lot of people also put pretty low. Not many people are a huge fan of this season, for good reason. Now listen, Kim plays a very dominant game, but has a very boring personality. So automatically, she kind of taints the season for me. I found her to be boring. And again, rest of the cast is unlikable. Colton and Alicia specifically, those people are pretty unlikable. And the One World twist is interesting because I feel like it could have worked, but it just wasn't properly executed. And it's just not a very fun season, in my opinion. Like, there's a lot of bullying in this season. Again, specifically from Colton and Alicia, or Alicia, whatever, how you pronounce it. It just was weird. Caught me off guard, to be honest, and I just don't really care for this season. Again, don't really like the winner that much. Kim played a good game, but she's not like a fun person to watch, in my opinion. I don't know. Again, hot take again, but I don't care. Moving on to number 40, I have Survivor Island of the Idols. Do we need to talk about this season? We really don't. I mean, all I need to mention is Dan. Moving on. At number 39, I have Survivor 44. Again, another season I don't really have much to say on. It is a new era season. Jam Jam, whatever. I have no opinion towards Jam Jam, really. I will say I like Carolyn and maybe even Carson from this season. I liked their relationship. I liked them as characters. I thought they were fun. Carson practicing the puzzles before he went on, which was kind of iconic. And yeah, Carolyn is just a great character overall. But that's really all I got to say. Moving on to number 38, I have Survivor San Juan del Sur, season 29. Some people like this season. It's Blood versus Water 2, but no returnees, so it's immediately more boring. And I think this season's probably slightly overrated. Natalie, another hot take. I don't really care for her. I thought she played a good game. She played a great game, similar to Kim. Mind you, I'm aware of this. But her personality, is it really that interesting? To me, it wasn't. And yeah, I don't really like a lot of the cast. We have John and Jacqueline fighting at one point in the season, which was just so like cringe and annoying. And stick to the plan, I guess. Well, that's the only memorable moment from the season. Moving on to number 37, I have Survivor Ghost Island. Boy, this was a forgettable season. The only thing I remember is the tie between Dom and Wendell, and Dom should have won. So yeah. At number 36, I have Survivor Edge of Extinction. Chris Underwood wins. How? He literally gets voted out extremely early and comes back into the game and wins. It's just really dumb. And the returning players are kind of mid. Like, I only liked David, I feel like. I mean, like, did we really need to see Wentworth play again? And Joe? And Aubrey? Not really. At number 35, I have season 35. Survivor Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers, which is a really dumb name. Very long name. And I do have a little bit of a soft spot for this season because it was my first season I ever watched, which is kind of interesting. Ben getting lucky throughout the season kind of hurts the season for me. He constantly finds idols, and it at times felt like it was kind of rigged for him to win. And of course, you have like the final fire-making twist, which they hadn't really done, but then they're like, actually, no, we're going to do something different this season, and then that eventually became a staple of the game moving forward. Now, I do like some people from this cast. I liked Chrissy, I liked Dr. Mike, I liked Devin. They're pretty fun in this season, but overall, this season's not great, but not like the worst thing ever. By the way, at this point, we're starting to get into seasons that are pretty decent, in case you haven't noticed already, but they're not great yet. I'll let you know when we get there. At number 34, I have Survivor Fiji, which is a weird season to me because a lot of the cast is not really likable, except for like Yao Man and Earl. Yao Man's just awesome, and Earl's a very likable winner. He's actually one of my favorite winners. I really love Earl, and he's the king of Fiji. It's a shame he never was brought back for Winners at War. I do like this season because it kind of finally figured out how idols work. You know, you actually can't play them after the vote's ready. You have to play them before. So that's kind of a neat little thing that they finally did. The idols work properly. But I'm also not crazy about the kind of have versus have-nots twists where one tribe kind of had everything and the other tribe didn't. It just felt really unfair. And I know the game of Survivor is unfair at certain moments, but that just felt kind of silly. And yeah, that's really all I got to say. The cast wasn't really super strong this season. I guess Dreams was kind of entertaining, but that, you know, Yao Man and Earl and Dreams, like the rest of the cast is just not really good though, in my opinion. I don't like Mookie and Boo. What are these names? Anyways, I'm sorry. I got a rant about that. I just find that funny. At number 33, moving on, I have Survivor the Amazon, which is season 6. And fun little factoid about this season, I believe episode 9 of this season aired the date I was born. April 10th, 2003. Pretty cool, huh? No one cares. Now, this season is weird, again, because I don't like the men versus women tribe dynamic, which they end up doing in Vanuatu, but I liked it a bit more here. I still didn't like it that much. I like Rob Cisternino from this season. Probably the best to never win, up there with Cirie in terms of like players who've never won, but were really great. You have Jenna here who wins, who almost quits at one point during the season. What? Yeah, I don't really care for Jenna as a winner, so that's another reason this season is low for me. I don't know. That's really all I got to say. At number 32, I have Survivor Marquesas, which was season 4 and Boston Rob's first ever season. And this is a weird season because the first, half is good, actually. I think it's okay. And then there's a little bit of a dip once Rob leaves because he leaves fairly early on. He's the merge boot ultimately and is taken out at that point. And there's a little bit of a dip in quality for me, but then like the finale is pretty good where they have to draw rocks. I think it's the first time they ever draw rocks. That was pretty cool. And Pascal ends up leaving. And then you have Vecepia winning. I actually like Vecepia as a winner. I know she's kind of overlooked, and another winner I would love to see back. Like for Survivor 50, maybe I'll do a fan cast for that season because I would like Vecepia to come back along with Earl. Both of those winners should return, even though I don't really think they'd ever bring Vecepia back, but they should. But the reason this season, again, kind of lower, that middle portion is pretty uninteresting. Without Rob, like Rob added such a fun, spicy element to the season, and him being gone, his absence was felt. So there you go. Anyways, at number 31, I have Survivor Nicaragua, season 21, and this is a messy, chaotic season, but it's kind of fun at moments. With the infamous double quit with Purple Kelly and Nyanka, and she got her torch smuffed, guys. It's and she still decides to go on the movie reward. Hilarious. And Fabio winning this season, he's cool. Marty is a very likable, entertaining character this season. So there's some good things about it, but I don't think it's like amazing. It's just kind of all right, I guess. At number 30, I have Survivor Samoa. And this season is the Russell Hantz show, as a lot of people like to call it. If you don't like Russell Hantz, you're not going to like this season. But I do like Russell Hantz, and it's a shame he doesn't win. We have Natalie, who ends up winning. What? Literally what? I understand why she won. I understand all that. Russell still should have won. And the reason this season, again, might be a little bit lower, some of the cast isn't that great. I know Shambo is kind of a fan favorite. I always went back and forth on whether or not I liked Shambo. I couldn't tell if she was annoying or not. Jason I thought was kind of annoying at moments. I don't know. There's certain moments with some of these cast members where I was like, do I like this person or not? So I don't know, kind of a weird thing I thought I should mention. Anyways, moving on to number 29, which definitely at this point we're starting to get into stuff I enjoy for the most part. I have Survivor 45, another New Era season. Told you not all the New Era seasons were going to be at the very bottom. Now we're kind of in the middle of the list here. Now I will say the 90-minute episodes are nice, and I really enjoyed that aspect. And honestly, this season has a great cast. Dee is a solid winner, I will say, but her win is super predictable. That's kind of my main issue with the season. The season's pretty good up until Emily leaves. And then once Emily leaves, it becomes very apparent on who's going to win. And they try to spice it up in the finale like, oh no, anyone can win. We're going to target D. Look. No, that doesn't freaking happen. So that's kind of my main problem with the season. And that might be like a nitpick to some people, but I don't know. When the last 2 episodes of the season are forgettable, or not forgettable, predictable, that's a problem. Anyways, moving on to number 28, I have Survivor Caramoan. A lot of people don't really like this season because the first Fans versus Favorites was so iconic, and I understand. For a Fans versus Favorites 2, it was underwhelming, but you do have the Brandon Hantz episode where he's basically taken out of the game. They try and do like this impromptu final council, but that's not really like a real thing. They were just going to eject him from the game. That's kind of a fun episode, though. Him going crazy on his rampage, pouring out the rice, yelling at people. Iconic, actually. But he's insane. Cochran winning. I love Cochran. It's hard not to like Cochran. He's just kind of, the ultimate underdog of the show. And, Philip returning is kind of fun. I think he's a great character. But overall, the season doesn't do anything super special. And you also have that weird moment where Brenda makes Dawn take out her teeth at Final Tribal Council, which was really uncomfortable. So that was weird. I don't know. And I will say, a lot of the fans on this season, very forgettable. So that's kind of an issue. But moving on to number 27, I have Survivor 46. Yes, the last of the New Era seasons. I know no New Era season super high, but, maybe someday there will be a New Era season I really, really love. But Survivor 46 is actually... this isn't actually the last New Era season. Never mind. What am I saying? But anyway, the 90-minute episodes still continue from 45 in this season. And I thought that was really good. I think it still works here. And they're going to continue that with 47, actually, so that's exciting. And then we have Kenzie, who ultimately wins, and I just watched the episode. And I like Kenzie. I do. I think I wished Charlie won, but, Kenzie was still fine. And this season's fun because no one uses their idols. That's kind of a fun aspect. We also have the Banu debacle at the beginning of the season. Banu's an entertaining character, in my opinion. And also you have the Liz Applebee's freak out. So there's some good stuff from this season. It's a decent season. It's not terrible, but it could have been better. But ultimately, this is the last New Era season on the list. At number 26, I have Survivor 43. Hot take. No one says Survivor 43 is the best New Era season. But in my opinion, it is. You got Allie Gabler, the GOAT of the New Era. And not a GOAT, the GOAT. That's right. And I just really think the rest of the cast is actually really solid. Like, I enjoyed not only Gabler, but I enjoyed, your Owens, your Jessies, your Codys. I don't know why they're plural. I even liked Noelle and, some of those other people. I'm sure were entertaining, right? And I still do think the New Era stink is still on this season. But, it's still a fun time overall. Again, Gabler, the person who I was rooting for from the beginning, ends up winning the season. So that's a big plus for me. Anyways, moving on to number 25, I have Survivor Kaoh Rong, the Medevac season, and Ty's season. This is his best season, in my opinion. I didn't like him as much in Game Changers. I thought the charm might have kind of worn off a little bit. But in this season, Ty is awesome and so lovable and just a great character. Michelle wins. She's all right. I'm not crazy about Michelle winning. I'm not like an Aubrey fan, though, either. So really, there's just no good options here. But yeah, this season is pretty interesting because of the medevacs, I will say. Again, that Caleb episode is intense, where it looked like, he almost died. That is some crazy stuff right there. So yeah, this season's pretty strong, but again, not quite like masterpiece material. But now at this point, we're definitely getting into pretty good stuff, just not quite best of the best. There's multiple sections to this list. But at number 24, I have Survivor Blood versus Water, season 27. Obviously a great cast, not only with returnees, but I'm a big Brother fan. as well. So seeing Hayden Moss from season 12 of Big Brother play Survivor and him doing actually really well on this season. He doesn't win, of course, but that's okay. Tyson wins. I think Tyson is one of the best winners, actually. I love Tyson. Just a very... See, here's the thing about Tyson. He played a good game this season, and he was entertaining while doing it. That's what I look for in a winner. That's why Natalie and Kim, I don't really find that interesting. They weren't that entertaining. They played good games, but were they entertaining? I don't know. And again, great theme. This was the first Blood versus Water season, so it really worked out well. This is a good season. At number 23, I have Survivor Guatemala, season 11, a pretty underrated season. I think a lot of people have kind of said that at this point. I think it's a solid cast. I really like Judd. I liked Stephanie and Bobby John returning. The first ever time they brought back returnees to play with newbies. That's kind of interesting. And of course, this is the first season with idols. Although the idol doesn't really work properly. The first 3 seasons they use idols, 11, 12, and 13. They don't work properly. Again, season 14, Survivor Fiji, really just idols start working properly at that point. And the one thing I like about Guatemala a lot is the location. I actually think this is a really underrated location, with the Mayan ruins and that kind of lake they had. Do you guys remember that reward they had this season where one of the tribes won a flotation thing with a cage underneath to protect them from the crocodiles? And then they invited the other tribe to have a pool party with them. That's such a memorable scene from this season that is burned in my mind for some reason. I always remember that reward, and that was just such a cool thing they had. Does anyone remember that? I don't know. But the reason this season is a little bit lower is, again, there are Rafe is another good character from this season, but there's some unlikable cast members like Blake and Jamie at moments. Jamie and Bobby John's rivalry this season was kind of weird. I don't know. But anyway, this is a decent season. It's just not quite best of the best material. At number 22, I have Survivor Worlds Apart. And I know some people might not be a huge fan of this season, but I kind of like it. You got some really fun characters, Rodney and Dan. Again, they said some questionable things throughout the season, but Rodney being so sad about having to clean dishes on his birthday, and Dan being I'm an adopted child. It's just so funny. Oh my God. And then Mike, I really like him as a winner and his gravelly voice. You guys, I'm Mike. And I think Rodney even imitated that in one of the episodes. I'm going crazy, guys. But man, also solid theme, I think. This is a reason I like the theme, is because you kind of have people from different walks of life. And that's always been kind of the idea behind Survivor, having people from different walks of life. And I think, having people from being blue collar and no collar and white collar, I think all of that's really interesting. So that's one of the reasons I like this season. But anyways, moving on to number 21, I have Survivor Philippines, season 25. I think bringing back the medevac players was cool. Seeing Penner again was really awesome, especially. I like the Malcolm and Denise dynamic. I actually really like Denise as a winner. Of course, the only winner, I believe, to have gone to every single tribal council. And it's just an entertaining season overall. I don't have much to say about it. I just think the other seasons above it are better. Moving on to number 20, I have Survivor South Pacific, a season not many people like. Let me explain. I'm a huge Coach fan, first of all. The Dragon Slayer is the GOAT. He almost won this season, but just didn't deliver in Final Tribal Council. And this season spawned the most hilarious reward ever, the Jack and Jill screening. And Coach is but there was a message. And I don't know what he said after that, but he was trying to analyze Jack and Jill, and it was just hilarious. And then you also have Cochran flipping between the tribes, and kind of betraying his OG tribe, which is kind of fun. And also Stacey Powell's speech, Halloween jokes, Chucky the Cheese jokes. It's just iconic. This season's iconic, and people don't get it. People don't get it like I do. I didn't really do a good job at explaining, but if you get South Pacific, you get it. Anyways, moving on to number 19, I have Survivor the Australian Outback. And this is the second season only. And it can be a little boring at times, but again, another iconic season. I think you have a great cast. A lot of people from this cast were brought back. That says something. Of course, you have Jerry, Colby, Tina, Scoopin, Varner, but Kimmy, Alicia, a lot of these players, Amber, just, I'm just naming everybody. But, I think the cast is just really solid. Jerry and Colby talking about chocolate, or Jerry was talking about chocolate, and, Colby's infamous line, but I ain't no Hershey bar, or something like that. You know what I'm talking about. It's just iconic stuff. And also a good location. Like, I really like the Australian outback setting. I think that adds a new flair because the previous season obviously was like the island aesthetic on Borneo. And you could really tell back in the early days they were trying to do something different for each season. So I appreciate that. But yeah, it's a solid season. It can be a little bit boring at times, but yeah. But at this point, we're definitely into the seasons that I like consider to be really good. At number 18, I have Survivor Cook Islands, which is kind of a controversial season because of them separating the tribes into races, which is, yeah, kind of screwed up, guys. That's kind of weird. But Yule ends up winning. I think he's awesome. One of my favorite winners. Very likable guy. You also have Billy Garcia, who is the GOAT, and falling in love with Candace. Candace from Raro Tribe? Yeah, you guys know. It's just so funny. Also the I don't know how long it was, but over an hour long fire making challenge between Becky and Sundra, I believe. Just crazy stuff. And just the cast in general, it gave us Parvati, it gave us Yule, it gave us Ozzy, it gave us Penner, and Candace from Raro Tribe. Yeah, so it's just iconic overall, but I know it is, again, kind of controversial because of the race thing. That's kind of screwed up, man. I don't know why they did that. It's kind of weird. Moving on to number 17, I have Survivor Millennials versus Gen X. And first of all, fantastic theme. Every tribal felt super crazy. I think Adam is a good winner, had an emotional story. I also really liked David from this season. Yeah, solid season. That's really all I got to say. Moving on to number 16, I have Survivor Borneo, the first season. Now, a lot of people wouldn't put this super high, but I think it's iconic. I think you got a great cast. Richard Hatch is still one of the best winners, in my opinion. I really do believe that. The first of his kind, truly. And it feels very different. It has a very different quality from the other seasons, but in a way, I kind of like that. Moving on to number 15, I have Survivor All-Stars, the first all-returnee season, or returnee season in general. And I know there's some controversy surrounding this season as well, specifically with the Sue and Rich stuff. Yeah, it's a little messy there. And also Jerry getting booed off. The stage in the reunion show is kind of messed up as well. But this cast, you just can't beat this cast. This is still, other than Heroes versus Villains, probably the second best cast in Survivor history. Well, in terms of returnee seasons, I suppose. But yeah, it's just really great. And, you got Boston Rob and Amber falling in love, which is pretty interesting to watch unfold, especially because they're still together to this day. So I think that's a fun thing about this season. Anyways, moving on to number 14, which at this point we have officially entered, I think, great territory. I think I would consider all of these seasons to be great. But moving on, at number 14, I have Survivor Cambodia, Second Chance. And I wanted to put this season higher, but I just ultimately didn't. Got a great cast and theme. A lot of memorable moments. I love, obviously, Wentworth idling out Savage and Savage just being so devastated and caught off guard. Iconic. Jeremy, I think he's a great winner. And yeah, that's really all I got to say. I mean, it's just, great cast, great theme, and great season. But at number 13, I have Survivor Cagayan, a season that a lot of people would put a little bit higher. Some people actually would put it at number 1. So a lot of people are going to come for me in the comments, and if they haven't already. But I do think this season is a little overrated, but I do think it's still fantastic. At the same time, of course, you have Tony winning, and I think his game is just so entertaining. Let me talk llama to you. It's just so good. And also the episode where everyone's looking for the idol, and you got Wu in here talking about Sonic. It's just, great stuff. And also this was the last season that they ever did a Final 2, so that was kind of special about this season. It is solid, and you have Chaos Cass and Spencer. So there's some good people from this season, of course. But I don't know. I kind of prefer these other seasons above Survivor Cagayan, especially, oh boy, another hot take alert. Number 12, I have Survivor Redemption Island. No one really likes this season, but I think it's underrated, and let me explain why. Of course, it's Boston Rob's winning season. He plays a fantastic game. And I know a lot of people say, well, it was set up for Rob to win. He was literally running circles around the rest of the cast. And it's like, I guess, but you still can't deny he played a good game, though. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it was kind of designed for him to win, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. And also, I think the first few episodes of this season with Russell's downfall is really good. You know, him just kind of ending up completely falling apart, saying he's going to play a different game, but ultimately doesn't. And you also have Philip, who this is his best season. Yes, he returned for Cara Moen, but Philip is at his best in this season and at his ultimate peak and hilarious. I'm sorry, I know some people don't like Philip. I think he's amazing. And, you know, great moments like Rob throwing the idol in the volcano. That's an iconic scene. And I just really love Boston Rob, so I think that might be the reason I put this season so high. I don't really care, though. Moving on to number 11, I have Survivor Panama, Exile Island. Fantastic cast, introduces us to Cirie, and, of course, Shane Powers, the guy who pretty much makes the season for me. And he's never been brought back. Put him on Survivor 50. I don't know if he would come back, but do it. And yeah, this season just is funny, like really funny, mainly due to Shane again and his relationships with like Courtney, especially. It's just hilarious. Which is like, I don't have a shitty apartment. And he's like, well, obviously I've never been here. And he just like freaks out. Dude, Shane's amazing. And also he makes like a fake BlackBerry phone. It's just awesome. Now, the season that the thing that holds the season back a little bit is Aras winning. He's kind of mid, like straight up. He's pretty forgettable. I'm not a big Aras guy. I'm sorry. So that's why this season didn't quite crack the top 10. Anyways, moving on to number 10, I have Survivor China. It's a fan favorite season, amazing location. I love the cast. You got Amanda, Courtney, James, Todd, you know, a lot of great people. Frosty, I don't know. Jean Robert, you know, there's some fun moments with him. And James going out with two idols is an iconic moment from the season. Damn, from the first episode. You know, there's just a lot of great things about the season. And it's pretty good, which is why it's in the top 10. At number 9, I have Survivor Africa. Yeah, a lot of people wouldn't put this season this high, but I think it's pretty awesome. You know, great location, first of all. Probably the most hardcore season of Survivor. And let me explain. You have the lions almost invading their camp, and you have them drinking like elephant dung infested water. And, you know, Lex ends up getting parasites, I think, after he, you know, goes back home to the United States, which is just crazy. And, I think the cast is good as well. Like, I really liked Ethan as a winner, and he's a very likable guy. I also like Big Tom. He's hilarious. And, you know, Lex, of course, as I mentioned. T-Bird's iconic as well, though. I would like a T-Bird return if they ever did Second Chance, too. And, yeah, like even Clarence, I think, is kind of entertaining at moments. So there's some good people in this season. And, again, I just really love the African theme. The location is really what makes the season for me as well. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of underrated. I don't know. I think it's really good. At number 8, though, I have Survivor Micronesia. Fans versus favorites. Obviously, you have a great cast. Obviously, this season's iconic. You have the scene with Eric giving his immunity to Natalie. You have the Black Widow Brigade. What else is there to say? It's a great season. At number 7, I have Survivor Winners at War. Season 40. This season really felt like the end of an era. And I will say it sucks that the old school people go early, but I love this season. I think it's still awesome. You know, Tony becoming a 2-time winner and him playing arguably an even better game than Cagayan is remarkable stuff. At number 6, I have Survivor David versus Goliath, season 37. And this is one of the, kind of best modern seasons, I guess you could say, of the show. And I wish they made like David versus Goliath 2, honestly, because the theme for this season is really clever, I think. And you have a great cast. You have Nick winning, which is kind of a meh moment, I think. It should have been Mike. I loved Mike White. Obviously goes on to create the White Lotus, which is kind of awesome. But you also have Angelina and the jacket fiasco. Natalie, can I have the jacket? And also her negotiating rice, and she constantly brings it up throughout the rest of the season. I love Christian Hubicki and Gabby and Davey. A lot of good people from this season. So yeah, it's a solid season overall. Moving on to the top 5, though, I have Survivor Palau, Season 10. Again, a season not many people would put this high, but I think it's severely underrated. I love Tom, who ends up winning. I love Ian, who's honestly like probably my favorite one-time Survivor player other than Shane. Like Ian and Shane, probably my two favorite like one-time Survivor players. And there's a few others I'm forgetting. But I really think this season is interesting because you have no merge, pretty much. The Oolong tribe gets completely decimated. Stephanie is the lone survivor of the tribe and joins up with the others. And I think she has a really interesting arc, obviously with Bobby John as well, which is why they end up bringing Stephanie and Bobby John back in Guatemala. But I don't know. I think this season, I really like the location too, like the war theming and the sunken ships and planes and all that. Like, I don't know. I really think, and also Kobe is a really likable person from this. I liked Kobe as well. So there's some good people on this season. I like this season a lot. I think it's underrated. Anyways, at number 4, I have Survivor Pearl Islands. I mean, this is the best of the original 8 seasons. You know, you have a great cast with Rupert, Sandra, Fairplay, Savage, Burton. You know, even Krista I kind of liked. Lil, I guess you could say, is entertaining at moments. And you have, you know, like very memorable scenes. The dead grandma lie. Everyone talks about that. That's like the most iconic scene in all of Survivor, honestly. And it's a great season. There's not much else to say. Now entering the top 3, I have Survivor Tocantins, which is season 18. And I love Coach. What can I say? His time on Exile Island this season is probably the best scene in all of Survivor, actually. And there's some other good people this season other than Coach. You have JT, Fishback, who end up being the final 2. And they're some of the best final 2s we've ever had. Frankly, I think so. And JT at this point had played a perfect game. And he's, you know, was at the time the only person. I don't know the statistics, guys. But he might still be the only person to play a perfect game, which is kind of interesting because in Heroes versus Villains and Game Changers, he does not play a perfect game. Spoiler alert. And yeah, I love the location, the Brazilian highlands. I love the loved ones visit this season with Coach bringing his assistant coach. Hilarious. Yeah, this season's very funny. I don't know. I think it's fantastic, dude. At number 2, I have Survivor Gabon. That's right. I put Survivor Gabon this high. And I don't care. I think it's a messy season. I think it's a chaotic season. I think the cast is crazy. You know, Randy, Sugar, Crystal, Kenny, GC, Ace, all these people are amazing television. And also good location. Like, again, I think it's the only other season filmed in Africa, but this time it was in West Africa. And I think it really worked. Like the rolling hills of Gabon and all the wildlife and stuff really had a good flair for the season. I don't know. I really love Gabon. And I know I'm not the only one. I know there are people who like Gabon. So there you go. But at number 1, I have Heroes versus Villains. I mean, obviously, this is the best of the best. This is as good as it gets. You have iconic cast members here. You have iconic moments. JT giving up his idol to Russell, and then Parvati, you know, having the double idol play, which is just great. You have Sandra becoming the first 2-time winner. I know a lot of people said Parvati should have won. Fair enough. Like, I think Parvati played a fantastic game as well. So, you know, I don't know. Like Sandra, maybe Parvati should have won. I don't know, but I don't care. I still love Sandra. Queen stays queen and all that. So Sandra's awesome. And yeah, that's really all I got to say about Survivor. That's my ranking. I know it's not very not a lot of people are going to appreciate this ranking, but that's all right, guys. Anyways, feel free to post your rankings of all the seasons down in the comments below. And if you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.